The Gran Turismo is the flagship when it comes to the Audi electric cars. The Audi E-Tron GT boasts a total of 530 horsepower with 640 Nm of torque. It has a CV value of 0.24 and also a top speed of 245 km/h. But it does weigh 2.3 tons. However, that is not going to stop it from going fast. Because it only takes 4.1 seconds to get this car from 0 to 100. That is, however, if you're in the boost mode. If you're not in the boost mode, you're going to be getting 476 horsepower. And if you're in the boost mode, those for 530 horsepower. However, you're only going to get them for 2.5 seconds, so let's see how well that works in dynamic and also off when it comes to the traction control. So let's do it. 4.31, that is the fastest we've had so far, and a slope of 2.1%. So yeah, you can definitely feel that this thing kicks you forward. However, if you do want a little bit more power, you can obviously get the RS model as well, which is going to cost 145,500 euros, and that's going to give you 646 horsepower, so a little bit more, but just a little bit. So the car is 4.99 meters long, so it is a fairly long car. However, if you opt for the optional all-wheel drive system, or not the all-wheel drive system, but that you can also move the rear tires by 2.8 degrees, that's going to allow you to be a little bit more sporty, and it's going to allow you to be fairly agile around these corners, because this car sticks to the ground, basically like a toy car, you know? Like if you're driving, if you were a kid and you put a car and you're driving it over the turf, it never slid around. And this is exactly what this car is. It feels like a little toy because just the cornering capabilities of this car is insane. You're able to turn into these corners so well as well. Because of that 2.8 degrees that you get if you're driving below 50, that's going to basically just allow you to be a little bit more helpful when you're driving in the city, because it's going to limit the turning radius down to 11 meters, or bring it down to that, which is basically nothing. You do also have that optional, or not optional, but you get the adaptive air suspension, which you can obviously change the height of the car with, which makes this car also just really, really low to the ground. If you're going over long distance and you're driving on the Autobahn, for instance, or the highway, at I think 180, it goes all the way down to the lowest mode. So even if you're driving individual or dynamic, it's going to put it all the way to the ground. So that's going to make the car almost 15 centimeters down. If you're driving 80 plus, it's going to go down by 10 millimeters, and then at 180, I think it's another 15 millimeters. So really, really far down. Let's actually see how it looks from the outside. So you can see right now we are on the highest setting, which really makes the car look really ugly from the outside, in my opinion. But let's measure it. So in this setting, we are currently at, around 20 centimeters of ground clearance. So let's lower it all the way, put it into efficiency mode, and it's going to go all the way down. And you can see just the way it like bounces up and down looks pretty cool, because it does the front, then it does the back, front, back. And if you go all the way up, it's also going to do like a little farting sound at the end. And now at the lowest setting, so let's check it out once more. And now that's around 15 centimeters. So we lost around 5 centimeters of ground clearance, which really makes the car really low to the ground. And if you're driving on some lower bumps, this is going to be really helpful if you can pump it all the way up, because that's just not going to allow you to hit the front of the bumper onto the ground. You do also have this optional sound. I'm just going to let you listen to it. If you slow down a little bit, and then you can hear that. It does that. That is the optional Audi E-Tron sound, which is going to cost you 500 euros extra. If you get the RS model, that's going to come standard with it. I personally like it. It's something you can also turn off, but I personally actually like the sound because it just gives you a little bit more feeling with the car, and it's something interesting. It's not like, for instance, the if you look at the BMW iX, for instance, where you have that like sound by Hans Zimmer, which just sounds very orchestrated. I don't know what the exact word is, but it doesn't sound that cool because it doesn't connect you to the car in any way. But this sounds pretty interesting. I like the sound of it personally. And obviously you do also get a little bit more agility with the rear spoiler, which does deploy at higher speeds. As you can see, we're currently not at higher speeds because I'm still standing. So you can also do it manually via the inside. And that's going to keep it out all the time. We do also have a fairly small roof in here, and or not roof, but a rear window. But we do have a really big diffuser down here. And in general, this is a very fat car, as you can see. It's 1.96 meters wide. It's fairly small when it comes to the height, 1.41 meters tall. So a fairly small car, but you can see on the length, this car is just ridiculous. 4.99 meters long. which makes it quite nice. If you put it in efficiency mode, this thing has the best cornering capabilities I've seen so far, and just in general, a very aerodynamic design. It's also a 50 or 40% Porsche, basically, Taycan, because they do share some similarities, which we will take a look at further on. We do also have our 20-inch wheels, which are winter wheels, so we still are going to do a brake test. However, because it's winter, it's probably not going to be the best value. Also on the front, we do have the Matrix, or the Pixel Matrix laser light, or the laser matrix lights. It's just a complicated one, which looks amazing. It does have that blue laser in there, which just makes the whole road illuminate very nicely. One thing I'm not the biggest fan of is the sensors down here. They're just not the nicest when it comes to the integration. So I've seen online that you are able to reach around 35 meters when it comes to the braking distance. However, we have winter tires and also fairly cold outside, 6.5 degrees. So let's see how quickly we can get it down from 100 down to 0. Oh, and that was probably the longest one I've ever had. 3.35 seconds. That took ages to stop. And it did. 42 meters here at 41 meters, so a little bit better. But wow, okay, it's a dirty road, it's slippery. The tires are also a little bit dirty. Yeah. Do not take that as any serious brake distance. It's winter time, so it's not going to be the most accurate. 35 I have seen claimed online, so yeah. Yeah. When it comes to storage space in the car, you have quite a lot. In the front, you, for instance, have a Frunk, which is 85 liters, which is very nice, so you can put your cables in there. And even for the cheap price of this car, you get some Porsche features in here as well. Look at that. You get a Porsche toolkit, which you can probably sell for a couple of bucks on the internet. But we do also have a storage space in the back, which has a total space of 405 liters, which might not seem much, but it actually is fairly practical. For instance, you can see we have a nice little loading space in here, and on the side we have some more space in there, and also like these little storage spaces down there. But the thing I like the most is this down here, because for instance, you can put your bag in there. That's what I always do. And it's not going to move around, which is nice, so that's a lot of storage space down there. And the other thing that you can see right down here, Porsche J1. So another Porsche thing in here. But that is, what the hell was that sound as well? The J1 is basically the platform. So meaning the Porsche Taycan and the Audi E-Tron share the same platform. That's going to mean you have a lot of similarities. For instance, the battery in here is the same. So a 93.4 kilowatts an hour battery, or kilowatts an hour battery, yeah, that's correct. And also an 83.7 kilowatts an hour battery, which is the total usage that you have on the battery. That's going to both charge at 270 kilowatts, which is quite fast, so it does have the 800 volt technology in here. And one thing that is also the same, like I said previously, 40% of the Audi is basically a Porsche. And one thing that you can, for instance, change between them is the windscreen, which is the exact same on both models. So we did charge the car from 8% up to 80%, and that took us a total of 21 minutes, which is fairly quick. Claimed is 5 to 80% in 21.5 minutes. And we got a max loading speed of 223.9 kilowatts, which again is very fast, and we did reach at 800 volt, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to reach that speed, which is very nice. So if you're going over long distance, you got to keep in mind, before that, we did do a full Autobahn drive, so we did drive the battery basically fully empty, and then we charged it, and that is why the battery was also completely fast. So it did go to 224 almost, up to around 20%, and then it went down to around just over 200, and then it just continued going down. But 21 minutes is a really, really good time. So we do also have two loading ports on here, which I did forget to mention. On the right side, it's going to be a fast charging, and on the other side, that's going to be for your 22 kilowatts max speed. We did do two charging tests, or not charging tests, consumption tests. We did do one going 80 kilometers or 82 kilometers in one distance with 130 max speed, or cruise control at 130. We use a total of 23.7 kilowatts an hour. And we had an average speed of 110 kilometers an hour. We did take us 41 minutes, and we had a total range left of 183 kilometers. The start was 270 kilometers. Then we did another one that we did full blast on the Autobahn back. That was around 50 kilometers. And we got a consumption on there of 44.6 kilowatts an hour. And that was a total of 21 minutes of fun with an average speed of, I think, almost 140 kilometers an hour, 145, something like that. We did do also a couple of city driving where we did get around 23, 22. That's where you're going to be getting. It's actually a fairly high consumption for the car. So yeah, the consumption that you're going to get is definitely not too close to the WLTP, but still fairly decent. The interior of the Audi E-Tron GT, in my opinion, looks really, really nice. There's a couple of things that, first of all, when we got the configuration, I was like, okay, in reality, that might not look that great. For instance, the wood on here, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be probably the biggest fan of that. But in person, it looks really nice. This is going to cost you 770 euros extra, however. But it is a very high quality walnut. That's, I think, what it is called in English. So a nut tree, which does make it look very nice. And in contrast, you have a lot of Alcantara, for instance, on the steering wheel of Alcantara up on here, where also the heads-up display is in there. Some more down here. Quality-wise, obviously, it is fairly nice. However, it's also going to cost you a little bit. The infotainment display, also, everything is a little bit minimalistic, but it's also held within range and also made easy to use for you when you're trying to operate this car, because the infotainment display, obviously the same as, for instance, the A4 or also the RS3 that we had, which is a very nice infotainment system, which works nicely, also integrated with Google Maps, which is nice because you can see that on the digital cockpit. But in here, you don't have the climate control integrated in there. You have it down here, which is nice with the heated seat and also some other stuff that you obviously have. The thing that I'm not that happy about is that you don't have any heated steering wheel, which is unfortunate. I think that is also an option you can theoretically get extra. Standard-wise, that would have been nice. The seats in here, also the non-leather seats, which also feel very, very cool. They're also not ventilated, they're only heated, but they have a fairly sporty grip to you, and they're also like bucket seats basically. If you're sitting in the back is a little bit more uncomfortable. If you're a little bit taller, you do have the panoramic window, which is nice in the back, but otherwise you're not going to have that much headroom and also leg room. You do have the carving of the battery down there is also, it's like carved out, so you have a little bit more leg room, which is nice. So you're basically sitting on the floor instead of on the battery, or your feet sit on those, which is nice. So it's just going to allow you to have your upper thigh more on the bench, apart from some other electric cars where you're obviously limited by the battery down there, so your foot room is not going to be that high, which is nice. Other than that, back is not that special. We do also have inductive loading space in here, which is down here, which is a little bit... I'm not the biggest fan of it because you can't... I always like to see my phone while driving. Might sound a little bit stupid, but I just like having my phone within reach, you know? And I don't like have it being crumped in there, because then I don't know what's going on, even though I don't look at my phone while I'm driving. I'm not the person that does that. But it would have been a little bit nicer to have it somewhere else. The Audi E-Tron GT is a car that I really do like, because it is a car of very versatile functionalities and also very interesting to drive. And there's not much you can really complain about this car.
But how much does it cost?
Well, well, it's not the cheapest car, I must say. It starts at around 106,000 euros, which is quite a lot.
And this model?
131,000, which is also very, very cheap. So yeah, it's obviously something for the rich people, which I'm kind of sad about, because I'm not a rich people. I'm not a rich people, so I'm not multiple people. So I'm not that happy that it comes to this price point. But again, it's just an amazing car when it comes to the performance. Even though you can still upgrade to the S model, which is going to give you a lot more performance. But this thing is already plenty enough. 4.1 seconds, which is, whoo! That thing is going to kick you back. And then, yeah, 800 volt technology is also going to make the charging very, very nice. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. We'll see you next time, and bye-bye.